Yay.
All right, good morning, everyone. It's just 11:30, and I'm going to wait just a few minutes until we have all our participants on, or just a few seconds, actually. Everybody logs on pretty quickly. And let everybody get situated. I will go through how to ask questions and how we want to run the format for today. So you should see a Q&A box on your screen. Please put all your questions and answers in there. I will moderate as Paul is giving his talk this morning and talking with all of you guys about stress and managing that stress. So put your questions in there, and when things come up, I will, give him a little hand raise and we'll interrupt and we'll ask the questions. And I know he's going to start off by asking you some questions, so we definitely need you to participate. Otherwise, this is going to be a one-way conversation. And he doesn't have a presentation for you this morning, so you have to participate. So hopefully you see that Q&A box. If you can just go ahead and write in that Q&A box who you are and, student, what year, that kind of business, so we can see that you are using it properly. So if you can do that right now, then we can take a quick look, and then he'll know where to begin. All right. Anyone going to go in there and put something in the Q&A box for us this morning? Just all you got to tell us is what year you are. That's it. There's one. There's one. There
Alicia.
Alicia, you're a rising senior from Arkansas. Awesome. So you are right in the midst of, or not midst, but right about to embark on your senior year. Good for you. All right, anyone else going to go in there and share? Alicia, it's going to be all up to you if no one else is in there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start. All right, so I'm going to introduce Paul. Hopefully you can see both of us on the screen. So Paul Royer is a licensed clinical social worker with a private practice in Pasadena, California. He's been providing individual and family therapy in the area for the past 25 years. Paul completed his undergraduate degree from Cornell University and his master's in social work at San Diego State University. Upon moving to the San Gabriel Valley, he was the clinical director of the youth services program at Las Encinas Hospital. And Paul has worked with many of the schools in the area, providing parental support groups and student evaluations. He specializes in helping families deal with substance abuse problems, communication problems, and acting out teen behavior. So I know Paul personally. He used to come and present at the school that I used to work at. And when I asked him to collaborate with me on this, he said yes right away. And I'm very appreciative of that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let Paul take it from here.
All right. Well, hopefully this is going to be a fun and interactive morning for everybody. Please do try to participate, as one of the things that I learned a long time ago, back even when I was a teacher in high school about 30 years ago, that people don't generally like to be talked at. I like to make sure that we try to have an active dialogue about what your experiences are, and hopefully I can give you some guidance in trying to navigate the stresses about getting ready to go off to college. So hopefully more of you will be like Alicia and be trying to work with us and participating in this morning. All right, so let's just get ourselves started then at the beginning. If you had to tell me what are your biggest concerns about college, would you please type those in for me? I'll give you a quick sec.
Oh, somebody typed into the chat box instead.
Okay.
That works too.
Works too.
I'll have them both open. So we have one coming up, the cost of college.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the others. Deciding on the right colleges to apply to and acceptances. Work-life balance.
Right.
You got to give them a second to
Yeah.
I
Give 'em
think
a
that's
second.
the
Type on in
difference
there.
here. All right. All right,
Well,
whichever one you want to tackle
yeah,
first.
let's get started there on deciding the right colleges. And I'm going to tell you the things that I tell all of my clients, all my patients about choosing the right college. The biggest mistake that many people make is that they want to go to the college that has the best name. They think, oh, I've heard of this school and it's really prestigious. And so that means it's going to be the right school for me. And what I have learned with many, many of my patients and with my own children, you have to start analyzing what it is that I'm looking for. Question number one, do I want a large school or a small school? Do I want a big university that's got 30, 40,000 people and high level sports and all those types of things where I go to I've got all types of activities that are available to me, or do I want to go to a smaller school, one that you get to know all of your professors? So you do have to think about school size. Then you also have to think about how far away do I want to be from my home? Do I really want to go far away and just only be able to come home intermittently during the holidays? Or do I want to be an hour, hour and a half away from my family so that I've got a lot of support there? So I definitely think that in order to choose the right school, you have to first of all do a really good evaluation of what it is that you're looking for. And then of course the next thing is you need to go see these schools and make sure that the climate, the weather, all these things are comfortable and accommodating for you to make sure that you're really going to be able to tolerate it. I had one kid who decided he was going to go to Syracuse, and he was born and raised here in Southern California. And needless to say, that was quite a weather shock for him. So all these things are what you have to really consider.
Another one that I'll add to is culture. Every campus has their own culture. And so you
Yes.
definitely want to make sure that you're being surrounded by your peeps. Like, you know that you can fit in there and that these are people that you're going to be able to relate to. Because they're going to be your family for the next 4 years. And so, understanding what school culture looks like, and every school has their own culture.
Right.
And it, how hard do you want to work in college? That's the other thing too. I always ask, right? You go to one of those prestigious schools that you were talking about, Paul. Sometimes the academic demand and rigor is no different than what you've been doing for junior and senior year to get in. Now you got to maintain that for another 4 years. And sometimes we're already burned out at the end of senior year.
Right.
So, those are things, all those, I think that's another one. There's a school culture and what that looks like. All right. So the other one we have here is costs and that work-life balance.
Well, let's go to the cost issue real quickly first, because there's another question up there about scholarships.
Yes.
Which is that particularly since I know most of you are in your junior year, this is the time to really work with with your parents and with the college counselors at your high school to try to see what types of scholarships are out there and available. Sometimes through your parents' jobs, there's opportunities for scholarships. I know that one of my clients, her mother worked for Nestle, and Nestle had this incredible support of scholarships to try to help kids be able to pay for college. So there are all kinds of things out there, and oftentimes we're not acutely aware of it, but I would definitely be coordinating with your college counselors at your high school, and also back through anything else that your parents may have picked up along the way. They may know more things than you know. That's a good discussion to have. So then the next one goes back to work-life balance. And that kind of goes to what Negla was talking about with, how hard do I really want to work in school? Am I the person who is very, very focused and on top of things, and I want to get in there and I know exactly what my major is going to be and I'm just going to plow right through it? Or am I more into trying to figure it out? I'll use my own personal story to tell you this one. I was going to be a marine biologist. I was going to be Jacques Cousteau. I know that many of you probably, that's a dated reference for many of you, but I was going to be a marine biologist right up until I went to my biology class at Cornell, and there was 600 freshmen in that class. And the professor was just this little dot all the way down at the bottom presenting. And that was really, really hard biology stuff. And I quickly realized that maybe this isn't for me. So you do have to ask yourself, am I open to ideas? Am I going to college to try to figure things out? Am I exploring? Or am I going to be, I know exactly what I want? So I think that that's something that you have to really think about also.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Some of them already know, and they, I will give an example. My husband is one of those. He was 17 and said, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And he did it. And that's what he does now. Myself, on the other hand, that was not the case. I started off thinking I wanted to be a pediatrician. I ended up working with kids, but not in that capacity. Wasn't for me. So,
right.
Yeah. So if you have the ability to explore, then you want to make sure that you go to a place where you can explore and that you don't have a core curriculum that you need to meet. All of these various things about the school. So that goes back to researching the school and knowing that it's going to be, again, is it the right fit for you and what it is that you want to do? All right. I think we've answered those ones there. You're going to have to prompt them with some more questions now, Paul.
Yeah, I've got another one. So We've got this craziness going on with COVID here in our world, where we've just went through an extremely difficult experience where we're all cruising along, going to our classes, and then the next thing you know, school's over with, we're at home. Sometimes we're doing Zoom classes, sometimes we're getting pass fails, sometimes the teachers are really, really good at knowing how to sort of handle using this type of technology. Other times teachers stink at it and they just have no idea what they're doing. So all that being said, how would you say you're feeling about going back to school, first of all, and then how are you feeling about the not knowing what school is going to even look like next year?
Good question, because I think everyone is in that boat.
No, we were just talking about it. There's no question. This whole thing is going to be a big challenge.
All right, we'll give you a couple seconds here to type your questions in, or your feelings and questions.
Sure.
Both are welcome. So Maria put in that she's feeling really excited to go back and see her friends.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. And once again, then you also have different family reactions. Sometimes I know of families who have not left their house in like 70 days. But I also know of other people who are like, okay, well, we're going to go to the park, but we're going to distance. I think it gets very, very confusing for people to know what we're supposed to do.
Right. Everybody, we have guidelines from the government and from your local health department or whatever the case may be. And you have those who are following the rules, quote unquote, the rules, whatever they may be, and others that are not. So she finished that with, and it's Camille. Okay. But she's also a little concerned as to how everything will work. So what are your concerns, Camille? When you say you're concerned, what do you mean by that? Just give us a couple quick examples. All right, so I think Camille, I think everyone can see what you're typing in there, but I'm just going to read it out loud anyway. I feel like I won't be able to learn as well or as fast as I normally do. So what do you have to say?
Jenna's also saying scared of my work ethic isn't going to be the same anymore because my school's approach to distance learning made it easy to be lazy, and I'm scared I won't be able to adjust back.
We were
Good
just
ones.
talking about that right before you guys all got on about transition and how teenagers do with transition. So those are two really great. I'm going to let you take it.
Sure. Well, point is, for all of us, in trying to find ways to handle our anxieties, we all have to come up with certain types of structure, certain types of predictable behavior. And I'm going to try to spin this thing around and say that this COVID experience is actually sort of a test run for everybody. Because when you're going to your high school, you've got your parents there and they're kind of overseeing you, and they kind of encourage you to go and do the things that are predictable. They kind of make sure that your food is there and they make sure that you're getting your homework done. But what's happening here with the COVID is that a lot more of the responsibility is following back onto the individual student. So this gives us a really good opportunity to practice our independence skills. Do I make myself go to bed at the same time every night? Am I able to get off of my devices and stop watching YouTube and stop talking to my friends? Because there's not going to be anybody at college who's going to be watching over you around that stuff. Am I able to get up in the morning? How do I do with navigating my room and the order and the structure of how I take care of my workspace? Because that's what a dorm room is going to be like. And so, am I able to do that? Do I need to go to a library? But gosh, libraries aren't even really open now. How about a Starbucks? Am I the type of person who can study in their room, or do I need to go somewhere? Do I study with people, or do I need to be in my own space? So as difficult as this last couple months have been, what I'd like to see all of you consider is, what did I do really well? What area did I shine, where I taught myself to be independent, where I'm on top of everything? And then what are the areas where I kind of fell down, kind of like what I'm seeing there from Jenna, that lazy word, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so easy to fall into that trap of, okay, I'm going to go to bed at 2 and I'm going to wake up at 12. Because if you do that at college, it's going to be really, really hard to stay on top of things. So I'm glad that you got that type of awareness and you're able to even confront yourself a little bit and say, like, wow, I've got to do better going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, college, I always talk about that, having a different mindset. So high school mindset and college mindset. They're totally different. In high school, your day is structured from the time that you wake up until the time that you are, getting home for dinner. You've got classes, there's a bell ringing telling you where to go at what time,
Right.
a bell ringing telling you when to eat, if it's okay to eat. If you can eat in class or not, or off, during, all of that. There's always this reminder and a bell happening throughout your day, and then from there you have if you're in a sport or a theater or a job, anything like that. All of that has a time requirement that you are then having to meet. And for the past, like you said, 70 days or 60 days or however many days we've all been on lockdown, there has been no structure. whatsoever. Jenna, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's been hard for me as an adult at home managing what my day looks like. And it is very easy to get lazy when you don't have to get out of your jammies all day because you don't have to get dressed and go to school. It's very easy to fall into that lazy. So, Paul's right. What did you do? What did you shine at this time and focus on that? And then the areas where you didn't, or you didn't do so hot, write those down and say, okay, these are the things that I have to change.
Right.
So Camille's part, saying she's not going to be able to learn as well or as fast as she normally does.
Right. That's a really, really good point, because I will even agree with you on that, Camille, that if we've learned anything here with this remote learning strategies is that we as a student, we as an individual have got to be more assertive. When we don't understand something, or we've got to be able to raise our hand and say, can we go over that again? Because with, I'm sure people have seen it, whether you're on some big Zoom class thingy similar to this, it's very, very difficult to get your questions answered. And so you've got to sometimes really be on top of holding the teachers accountable, or even going to your parents and saying, I'm getting confused by this stuff. I need some extra help and support. So I think that's a really, really important one. So let's jump into this concept real quickly about anxiety a little bit more, so maybe we can make some sense out of it. The problem that most teenagers and young adults have with anxiety is that when we don't address it, when we don't label it, when we don't acknowledge it, that it tends to overwhelm us, to overtake us, and sort of make it so that we're not able to function. And I do want to separate a couple of things out for you real quickly. There is internal anxiety. That is generated by our thoughts, meaning that how much pressure do I put on myself? Am I that person who procrastinates a lot and then I try to rush to get it all done at the end? Or am I the person who's a little bit more structured and rigid? Do I expect myself to get all straight A's all the time? So what type of pressure do I put on myself? And then how does that lead me to feel? Because the one thing that we know is that we're all unique individuals, and how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about our family and about our friends and about our world influences, how our overall perspective is on the way that the world is. Is the world a good, safe, happy place where I can be successful, or is the world an awful, horrible place where people are here to put me down all the time? So that's sort of our internal anxiety mechanism. And then there's the external. How much pressure do my parents put on me? Do I have a lot of chores, or do I have few chores? Am I expected to be perfect in school, or in my activities, or in my sports, or in my theater, or in my music, or whatever it is that you throw your energies into? How do my parents put pressure on me? Do they put too much, too little? And then even the school. Am I in this really, really competitive school environment where I want to go to an Ivy League school, or it's, whatever. No. So you have to look at and try to understand how much anxiety I put on myself and the world puts on me. So in order to do that, I'm going to ask you each a question. If you had to label your anxiety from 0 to 10, where 0 is like, oh, I got this, everything's calm and easy and mellow, and 10 is like, oh my gosh, my head's going to explode. Where would you say your general anxiety level is at usually?
So Camille, you've got a 3 or 4.
Right, good.
Awesome. Good for you. Is that Michelle or is it Chance? I'm going to assume it's Chance and not actually Michelle, but we'll go. Let's see what he says.
And Alicia's got pretty high stress.
It's chance. So he's 2 or 3, and Alicia, you're at a 7. So you're on the other end. Oops. Does she mean to say oops? Oops, you don't mean a 7, Alicia? It's okay. Put in what you want. You can change your answer.
Sure. And once again, anxiety is always going to happen. Like I keep saying, anxiety is a natural part of being alive. The example I use with all of my patients is, maybe we were measuring a
different standard.
Yeah. Well, for example, the best example is, I'm sure you've all turned on Discovery Channel or something like that, and they show these gazelles. And the gazelle is out there in the middle of the plain, and along comes this tiger. And the gazelle's eyes go up, and it sees the tiger, and it starts to run. That is anxiety. Now, the good thing is that hopefully that gazelle is going to run real fast and get away. Because if he doesn't know how to use its anxiety in an effective way, then the gazelle gets eaten, and that's kind of nasty. But the reality is that for us as human beings, most of us have those anxieties come up where we're stressed, we're worried about our family, we're worried about our grades, we're worried about our friends, but then we don't know what to do with that. So what I'm trying to get us to realize is that for each of you, regardless of what your situation is with your family and with yourself and with your friends, your ability to look at those stresses and figure out how much anxiety you're experiencing is really, really important.
So Jenna piped in also, and she put down a 6.
Right.
And Alicia, you're right. Maybe we are measuring at different standards.
Right.
Some people are able to handle stress better than others, and it doesn't manifest itself until maybe you get to a 10, right? So 7 for you may be a 2 for someone else, or vice versa. I'll tell you, I'll share my stress and anxiety levels. It's been rough during this COVID, and I'm probably at an 8, and it hasn't been good. Our lives changed overnight. I had my children move back in with me after they haven't been here for 3 years. It totally changed the dynamic of our family. So it's been a little stressful, and not having the freedom to go out and do the normal things that you do. I love to work out every morning. That was eliminated overnight for me.
Right.
Eliminate to work out? No, but eliminated in the routine of my workout. So that was that structure that was eliminated. And like I said, it's hard to go about your day when your structure is no longer there. So good thing is I have a great support group. I have a wonderful husband, and my children are amazing. And that 8 then was easily managed because of the environment that I was in. But I think what Paul's getting at is, if you're at an 8 and you are 7, 5, 4, whatever number you want to give yourself, and you're away from home, I think that's where you're probably going, right, Paul? When you're 100%. You don't have your normal support group, right? I had my husband and my kids, and I was in my home. I get to sleep in my own bed every night. There was still some of that structure. What does that look like when you're not at home?
Right. I love what you're saying, because you hit on all the major pieces. Is that when we don't deal with our anxiety, it stores inside of our body, and we will have physical manifestations of that anxiety. Our sleep gets erratic. We can't fall asleep. Appetite fluctuates. We're either shoving stuff in our mouth constantly, or we're missing meals and losing weight. We notice an increased heart rate, inability to focus, racing thoughts, sweaty palms. All these physical symptoms make it very, very difficult to get through your day. And if you're experiencing any of those symptoms, even now here in high school, going back to what Negla was just talking about is that we have to remember that as we prepare to go off to college, it is the single most difficult life transition there is. You're shifting from being within your family's cocoon, the structure, even if it's not a really good family. Like it's just this, maybe there's some problems in your family. Maybe we fight too much. Maybe there's a divorce. Maybe there's too many people. Maybe you're the only kid there. I don't know. So every family has their own challenges. But for the first 18 years of your life, that's what you've been able to deal with. And you have to understand that when you go to college, every single thing will be different. Your bed will be different. Your friends will be different. You won't have your family there. All of the things, like let's pretend that in high school, you're the best tennis player on your high school tennis team. And you think, oh my gosh, I'm a great tennis player. Maybe I'll play tennis in college. And then you find out, oh my gosh, all these people here at college are like 1,000 times better than I am. So the things that we rely on in high school are all going to be changing. So that's why we've got to really emphasize that there's going to be anxiety generated by that change. What is the biggest concern you have about being on a college campus?
I'll give you guys a minute to write in there.
Sure.
I know my biggest concern, I went to a school I didn't know anybody, and I thought, how am I ever going to make friends? Because I was very, very social, and I had such a strong friend group when I was in high school that actually till this day, I'm 50 years old, those girls are still my best friends from high school. We see each other 2-3 times a year. And I thought, how am I ever going to make those relationships? And I went to school and I was the quietest person. I became the quietest person instead of the rambunctious person that I was, until I made a connection and figured that out. So, but it took time. It didn't happen overnight. So Chance is saying the environment change.
Right.
Camille is saying not being able to make as great friends as I have now. That was mine.
Yep.
Camille. All right, Alicia and Jenna, if you'd like to put in yours, that would be wonderful, so we can address all of them. So, but we'll start off with Chance's, the environment change. What do you mean by that, Chance, the environment change? Can you give us just a little tiny bit more information, or we can go off of that too. I'm sure Paul can address it.
Sure. Homesick. Oh, yes. That's a real big one.
All right. All right, I'm going to let you take it, Paul. You go wherever you want with these. You decide which one you want to attack first.
No, I think you did a great job of talking about the friend piece there, meaning that, you know, sometimes we get really, really focused on our friend group and thinking like, okay, these are the only people, you know, they're the tightest people in the world. Or maybe we've been in a significant relationship. Maybe we're dating somebody. It's like, oh, we've dated all through high school. I swear I know we're going to get married and we're going to be together for the rest of our lives. Then all of a sudden, everything just changes. So there's no question that trying to stay close to those friends is really important. But this also creates an opportunity for us to evaluate, what is it about my friend group that I really value? What is it about them that I really like to have around? Because as you go off to college, you're going to be presented tons of new experiences. Potentially literal if you're moving far. As you stated, a likely culture change, new living arrangements, etc. Now that makes sense. And once again, kind of like we alluded to a little bit earlier, is that how is my relationship with my family? Am I the kind of person that likes to sit down and have lengthy discussions with my parents? Or is it the exact opposite, where me and my parents barely speak about anything? There's 6 kids here in the house. I don't know if my parents even remember my name. You know, each of us has got our own individual experience with our families, with our siblings, and with our friends. And this gives us a really good chance to start thinking about, okay, how am I going to feel being away from all of this? And what is it that these people bring to my life that I really want to hold on to? The other thing I want to really put out there for everybody is, please remember that you will not get dumber when you go to college. So this anxiety variable that I'm talking to you about, or that we're all talking about, I guess here, it is the indicator on success versus failure in college. If you go to the wrong college, a college is just because it's a good name, or because you thought that you wanted to be at a really, really big school and then you feel lost and overwhelmed, it is very, very challenging to know how to manage all those feelings about where you're going and what type of situation you're putting yourself into. So I do think that here we are talking about all these anxious situations, and that's going to give us a chance to do better in the future. Now, I want to put out the other big thing that you have to really think about. Each one of you has had experiences in high school. Some of you have got a lot of freedom. Some of you have got a lot of independence already. Some of you go to parties. Some of you are drinking. Some of you are pot smoking. Some of you are in experiences where you've never even been to a party. You've never been on a date. So the other piece that we have to start thinking about as we're getting ready to go to college is, okay, so what have I done from a social stance here in my high school world? And as I look at that, I've got to start asking myself, do I want that to change in college? If I'm the person who's done nothing except, study and stay in my room and play video games, do I want to have a different social life when I go away to college? Or am I the person who's been off partying too much in high school? Maybe I'm out there already drinking and spending every weekend stoned or experimenting with other substances. What do I see going forward with those types of situations? Do I want to be that person who's going to go off to college and start drinking or continue drinking? You've got to start asking yourself, honestly, what are my thoughts on all these things?
Once again, as you said before, and as we both mentioned, there isn't going to be anybody there monitoring any of those situations for you.
Exactly.
There's not going to be an adult saying, hey, what time did you come in last night? No one's going to ask that. You're going to get to do what you want. So making those, which your parents have probably been saying to you for the past 18 years, every time you walk out the door, because I know it's what I say to my own children, make good choices, right? Make good choices.
Right.
So, and they've left that up to you to make that good choice. Have you been making good choices all along? And then you're going to go off during this, as Paul said, the biggest transition that you have made thus far in your life. Are you going to be able to continue to make those good choices? Or because of these things that you said you're anxious about, the environment change, being able to, make the friends that you had in high school, being homesick, having that culture change, being far away, having those new living arrangements, all of those things that you guys put into the chat box there that you're concerned about, now that all this change is happening, are you going to be able to continue to make the good choices?
And also give yourself permission to ask yourself these questions. I mean, I think one of the things that you're probably already realizing from the dialogue here today is that everything we're talking about is fluid. It's always going to be going forward. Like I said, I'll just make up an example. So let's pretend that you've decided all the way through high school that I'm not really into dating and I don't really want to go have sex with anybody. None of that's for me. I'm just going to focus on my grades. And then you go off to college, and that may be how you continue to think. Or you may say, wait a minute, I want to start dating. I want to have a better social life. And then all of a sudden you're confronted with, okay, what do I think about sexual behavior? Do I want to be sexually active? Do I not want to be sexually active? What do I need to do to protect myself both physically and emotionally in these relationships? Because I'm sure you don't want to just go off and go to some random party, drink too much, and then have to deal with, the consequences of drunken behaviors. Or, I don't like to have to bring it up, but I do bring it up with everybody, particularly for girls. You've got to be safe on a college campus. You have to really watch out for any type of date rape situations. Once again, not trying to increase your anxiety, but that's something that you have to be very, very cognizant of. But back to my point, you get to make choices along as you continue to go through your situations. And the only skill that I want you to try to give yourself, which is this empowerment strategy, and we're going to talk about it here in a couple minutes, but that I'm constantly getting my anxiety under control by answering the tough questions. Yes, in high school, I wasn't going to be sexually active, but now in college, I'm going to be. And now if I'm going to be, I have to be safe and protected. Or I never drank a sip of alcohol all the way through high school, but I want to go to the frat party and I'm going to drink. How do I make myself safe and protected? So in each of these scenarios, trying to get you to empower yourself and reflect on what your value system is the best way to get your anxiety down, to feel like you're in control and empowered in your life. Because like we've been talking about, you're going to have different types of situations. And even if you have been out and very social in high school, I promise you college is much different.
Paul, one thing I would say, and you say to ask those questions of yourself.
Yes.
The one thing I would add is to answer it honestly. Don't answer the way you think your parents would want you to answer, but answer it truthfully from your heart about what you really are going to be like when you're on that college campus. Because if you don't, then you're only kidding yourself.
Right.
And really, really hurting yourself. Because I think that, as you said, what are the expectations from my parents, from my, teachers? And, you started off with that. And, at this age, you've been, like you said, in this cocoon. And most teenagers who are on a webinar on a Tuesday morning at 11:30, I'm going to go out on a limb right here and say that these are the ones that are really concerned and focused on what their future is going to be like. So they may be the ones that are already putting that pressure on themselves and expectations. Sure. That the adults around them are. So, but be honest about what that college experience is really going to look like. Because if you don't, then once again, you are just kidding yourself on how you're going to then manage the stress that comes with that.
Now I want to open up one more piece to this because it is much more in our world, and I don't know if it applies to any of you, but I do think it needs to be said because you will be exposed to it. You also have to ask yourself questions about sexual orientation. I know that there's a lot of high schools now who are very, very wide open and really working on helping people be reflective and understanding, what it's like to be gay or what it's like to be bisexual or what it's like to not feel comfortable in your own skin, because I know that generates a lot of anxiety for people. So even if you're feeling confident and secure in your sexual orientation, you're going to be exposed to a lot more people who have variant ideas around that. So I do think that even as you're going through your senior year in high school, that's something to continue to consider. A, what about me? How am I feeling as far as my sexual orientation, and how am I feeling about others? Because my nephew, for example, went off to Santa Barbara, and his roommate was gay, which was fine in the beginning until his roommate wanted to have gay sex in the room. Then that was very difficult for him. So I do think it's important for us to be able to think about and talk about these issues.
Yes, what you are exposed to in college, as we said, is going to be much more than what you are in the one cocoon that you've been in at your high school and your community and whatnot. It's a much bigger world out there.
Yep.
And you will be exposed to other people's ideas and way of thinking. And how do you interact with that? And I'll say that's part of like what we're seeing, I think, right now in our world, the disagreements on the way people see other people.
Yep.
And that's the reason why we have rioting going on in the streets and stuff going on. So, again, being honest with the way that you answer those questions.
And along with, we've talked a little bit about sexual orientation. We talked a little bit about your own perception on socializing and partying and those types of things, really being reflective on, what you do or don't put in your body, drinking pot, pills, other drugs, whatever's out there. You got to be reflective on those things, but you also have to be honest and tell yourself that there's going to be a lot of pressure to evaluate other value systems. How do you feel about religion? How has your family taught you to deal with religion? We got from a strict religious family, we go to church every weekend, or we don't do any of that. You're going to have your great opportunity to reflect on and see, if you come from a family where you go and do services for whatever religion it is on a consistent basis, am I going to keep doing that in college? If I choose to do it differently, how are my parents going to handle that? Is that something that I need to just be comfortable with, or is it something that I need to assert? Also in political areas, as Negla was kind of referencing there, my parents are these staunch Republicans. Am I going to continue to be that way? Or staunch liberals, or maybe they don't care. But you do get an opportunity to sort of look at yourself and say, wow, this stuff really matters to me, or I don't care. It's no big deal. So continuing to evaluate what your value systems are going to be going forward. All right, so I want to jump off of the problems and I want to jump into the solutions for a couple minutes. So what are your present coping mechanisms?
All right, we're going to give you guys a few seconds here to type in. I already told you what my coping mechanism was, and that was working out every morning.
There you go.
When it wasn't happening, it was not good coping in this house. Let me tell you. So, for COVID-19 or just in general? That's a good question.
That's a very good question. It's a very good question. Because we don't know what's going to go on with this COVID-19 thing. It is, I don't want to raise anybody's anxiety, but Negla and I were talking about it. It is very, very possible that some schools will not be open even when you guys are going away, or that the look of school will continue to be different. We got some video games, music, art from Maria. Good.
Chance, give us both. What have you been doing to cope during COVID-19, and what are your general coping mechanisms? So then that way we can look at both of those.
Right.
Music and art and video games. Thank you, Camille. Alicia, Jenna, do we got you going on in here to participate a little? Oh, wow, there we go. Art, reading, and Netflix. Okay. Right. And Chance piped in with video games, sports, and friends.
Perfect.
Probably that hasn't been going the friends portion probably hasn't been as normal as possible lately.
Or even the sports things.
Or the sports
all
part.
those,
Absolutely.
my kids are soccer kids, and they haven't been able to play or coach for the last 4 months. It's been horrible. So let me break it down for you about what we need to do as far as coping skills. And I want to really emphasize an idea for all of you to think about for during your senior year. Let's view the next year as this incredible opportunity where I'm going to explore. If there's something that I want to do that I've been thinking about doing, but I've just said maybe too much effort or it might be embarrassing to try, I'd love to see each of you take this next year to push yourself to engage in that new activity, that thing I'm going to learn how to play the guitar. Okay, and let's learn how to play the guitar. Let's get out there and put some time and effort into it. Because we've probably got some things already that we're pretty good at, but we also have some things that we could probably improve with. Now, as I'm looking here at what everybody's writing down, I'm seeing of what a lot is called passive coping skills. Reading, art, music a little bit. I guess if you play the drums or you're in a band, maybe that's a little bit more active. But generally, video games are definitely passive, where you're sitting there, and it does give us some time to think, reflect. Sometimes reading is a very good passive coping skill, but having some good passive coping skills is very, very helpful. But the thing that we've all got to add, and this sort of goes to Negla's point earlier, is we have to have some physical release of stress. Back to my gazelle on the Discovery Channel. When that gazelle is running away from there, that is the expression of getting that negative energy out of us. So each of us needs to, not saying we have to run away from tigers, but we have to find some active skill sets. Some people go to the gym, some people play sports, basketball, tennis. Some people like to jog, some people like to, play lacrosse, play soccer. Some people are more into just doing things that, require their focus. But what we know for sure, particularly for young adults, is that at least 3 to 4 times a week, you need to get your heart rate up. I tell people the same thing. You have to be panting. I know it sounds crazy, but you've got to be, because that is what takes all that anxiety, all that energy, the stress from classes, the stress from friends, and it just expels it out into the universe. Now, of course, with COVID-19, we've got these masks on our face. That's probably been making it more difficult. But my point is that if you are that person, particularly for somebody who plays a lot of video games, where you're sitting there 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes in a row, I really want you to take this next year and say, if I'm going to be successful in college, I've got to find something active, something that's going to get all this negative energy out of me. So that would be my biggest challenge for each of you, is to say, okay, what is my go-to? What are the things that I like? I like to, strap on my tennis shoes and go for a good jog. Great. But if we don't have that, we need to find some of those active coping skills. Am I making any sense? I hope so.
I think you are. And if you can't do it because you said we are in this COVID and you can't go to the gym or do those things, there are all kinds of different alternatives, right?
Exactly.
How about just jump in your room, dance. You can dance.
Dancing, I love that.
Just turn on the music that you like to listen to and dance by yourself, right? I know it sounds crazy. And teenagers are probably like, really, I'm going to dance in my room by myself. You can have a dance party with your friends on Zoom if it has to come down to that, right? But
Right.
doing things that, like you said, out of the ordinary. I will tell you, one of my sons, one of my boys, see if he can guess who it was that had this coping mechanism. And I always knew he was stressed if he went in his room and he shut the door and he crocheted.
Yeah.
And I was like, he learned how to crochet when we went to family camp. And I knew that the stress level was above what he can handle when he went and he sat on his bed and he went to that quiet place and he crocheted. And I know that doesn't sound like a, general, what's the word I'm looking for? The general norm of a young man to crochet. But that was the one thing. And I always knew, if that's what he was doing, I was like, okay, his stress level, because he was my non-talker. So it was here. And that was my indicator that I needed to change the way that I interacted with him, because I knew he was already past his own level. True, it wasn't an active, well, it's kind of active. It's not heart rate up, but it is active with him having to focus.
Right.
So,
and it's about having a good balance between the both. Some people like to read, some people collect things. There's absolutely nothing wrong with, every once in a while having a little bit of escapism in a video game, or, watching some TV, getting a little bit of mindless stuff going on in our brains. That's fine also. But the problem is, and I think we see this quite often here, is that when that little bit of, I just don't want to get up, I don't want to engage in anything, that usually tells us that our mood's off a little bit. Now, the third piece to this, along with the active coping skills and the passive coping skills, is the communication skills. And I really want to emphasize this with all of you, because learning how to communicate our emotions is such a powerful and empowering mechanism. And like I kind of alluded to before, I don't know what your experiences have been within your family, with your siblings, or with your friends. Some people are already really, really good at this. Some people are super comfortable just saying like, oh my gosh, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. But being able to communicate how you feel to the people in your life that you're close to and that you trust is so important, particularly as we're getting ready to make this big life transition. Being able to go up to your parents and say, I'm just having a real hard time. I'm feeling like I'm not good enough. I'm feeling like I'm put too much pressure on myself. I feel like I'm way behind everybody else. Whatever it is that's going on, your ability to try to communicate your feelings is equally important to the first types of coping mechanisms we were just talking to. So I'm going to ask each one of you, do you have somebody that you can go to when you're feeling stressed? And I'd like for you to just write that person's name down if you could. My best friend, Layla. I think that's Layla.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Noah, good.
That it? We're not getting any more names? Okay.
Well, once again, I would like to see you all really think about the relationship I have with my parents. Are my parents somebody that I can go to? Because it's really difficult, as you already know, because on one hand, you want to be independent, you want to do it your own way. I totally understand that. But on the other hand, we got one more year to kind of live under their roof and figure out, why they do what they do. And we've got to make some decisions about whether we're going to do it their way when we go away to college, or whether we're going to go the opposite. And that's a choice that y'all get to make. All right, so I've been sitting here jabberjawing at you guys for the last hour. I want to know if you guys have any specific type of questions that I could answer for you, or Negla can chime in on, that might be maybe something we didn't cover here today, or something that you'd like to just sort of throw out to your peer group.
All right. It looks like we lost some participants here.
Did we?
Yeah.
I talk too much.
No, no, not at all. All right. You guys ask your questions now. This is your chance. You've got an expert on the line here. You can ask anything at all. If they don't ask, does that mean that you answered everything, Paul?
That means that I gave a perfect presentation and
Yeah.
I've fixed the world and
Oh,
everything in it.
wouldn't that be easy?
Yes.
If it were that easy? All right, we're waiting for you guys to ask some questions. This is your opportunity to do so. No questions.
Oh,
Oh, there's one.
no. How can you spin code to possibly make it an
Make it an
opportunity?
opportunity.
Well, kind of like I mean, of course, there's nothing good about people being sick,
Oh, no.
but the byproduct of that experience is that we all get an opportunity to sort of reflect on and look at, how am I doing with sort of navigating this new level of independence that is being required of me in high school? I mean, going back to what Negla said in the beginning, it was very, very difficult. In high school, there's a lot of people watching out for you. You know, there's bells, there's expectations. Sometimes you got the parent sort of sitting right on top of you. College is going to be very different. You know, there's not going to be anybody waking you up in the morning. You got some people, you know, I'm going to get on your parents in a couple of weeks about this stuff. You know, they've got to teach you how to be independent. They got to teach you how to manage your money, make sure you're getting yourself up. Who do you think is going to do your laundry when you're in college? Is mommy going to come do that? Absolutely not. So the only positive thing, once again, about the COVID experience is that it gives us a chance to sort of look at, hey, where do I need to do better with my self-regulation and my independence?
The one thing I would say with that too, Chance, is that you have the opportunity to figure those things out when you're still in a safe environment.
Yep.
Right? So mom's still there. If you ruin your laundry, it's okay. She'll show you how to fix that, right? But when you go away and it's the first time you do your laundry when you're in college and everything comes out purple, you're wearing purple clothes for the rest of the semester until you get home, right? So practicing that. You going to bed without being told, getting those hours of sleep that you need. So, you know, COVID right now, again, no structure, no plan, no nothing. Do it without your mom having to tell you to do it, because then it's just going to make it easier when you take off and you're there and you're sharing a room with a stranger. And you're going to have to get up and do it on your own. You know, what else? Eat good.
Yeah.
You know, I still have one, grown, graduated, the whole bit. And I'm like, did you eat today? Well, I had a coffee. Okay, well, coffee doesn't do it, right? You know, that's a stimulant. You have that first thing in the morning, you keep going and going and going. You know, so practice right now in a space where you can make mistakes, and it's not the end of the world, right? You're making mistakes in a safe environment.
Yep. Hopefully that helps. Any other questions?
Anyone else?
Anybody?
All right. Well, as you all know, Paul will be presenting to parents, not next week, but the following week on June 30th. So that you want your parents to hear Paul, because you like the way he approaches the world, and giving that advice to your parents, and how to communicate with you, because that's how he's going to be presenting to them. On how best to communicate with you so that you can be heard. And I think that sometimes is the hardest part for a teenager, is that sometimes you feel that you're not being heard. And it's not because your parents don't love you, and it's not because they don't understand, because they were never in your situation. They were. But there's just something that clicks on and off when you become a parent, and I don't know how to explain it, but it just does. So he's going to approach it from, I know that that's what he's going to do. He's going to approach it so that communication highway between you and your parents can be improved for the future.
And I am going to really I'm going to try to get your parents to look at these exact same scenarios that I've been talking with you all about today, which is that they've got to analyze themselves and how they communicate with you, and if they got you emotionally prepared to handle all the stresses that come with getting ready to go away to college. I mean, like I said, if your parents have been sort of doing everything for you all this time, don't be mad at me when they stop doing that, because I'm telling them to make you be more independent. Or even the other one is about money. It's like, oh, Mom, can I have 20 bucks? Can I have 20 bucks? Can I have 20 bucks? Like, no, your mom's going to give you an allowance, and then you're going to live within that money structure, because that's what being an adult is.
Yeah.
So we'll keep working on it.
All right, so I'm just going to actually go through these slides really quickly that I have here, and is basically the reason why I put this whole College Talks webinar series together, and I added Paul in along with the universities that are presenting, is so that you take the opportunity that you have right now from June until when school starts back up in August, because we don't know what school's going to look like in August. Are we going to be in class? Are we going to be online? Is it going to be a hybrid? There's still this unknown. So
Right.
to take this opportunity when you have a little bit more downtime, because I'm assuming that we don't have sports and that we don't have all of these things going on, and rather than procrastinating and then making your life that much more stressful and getting the more anxiety and more stress on your plate in August when school starts back up with all the unknowns that are happening, is to use this time to your advantage to start in on the things that you are able to control. Okay? You can control researching where you want to go to school. You can control finding out what those schools look like. Can I afford it? Is there merit aid even available at these schools? Do they do that?
Scholarship stuff, like we said earlier.
Right. And so doing all of those college things now, when you have some downtime to research, build a list, right? Where do I want to go to school? How much time is that going to take? How many essays do I have to write for that? What is that all going to look like? And can I handle all of this in addition to the first semester of my senior year or my junior year or whatever year you're going into? So like I said, I'm going to go real quick through these slides. So, the various plans that I have, we've got the least expensive with the master class. We work in a group and we can do all of those things. It's just not one-on-one. And then we have upperclassmen stuff, 3 different ways that you can do it, 3 different packages, everything in a price range that hopefully works for someone. And then we got the underclassmen. If you're a junior, or underclassmen, if you're a junior or a sophomore and you're on today, and how can we establish that foundation so that when junior year, senior year rolls around, I'm not scrambling to figure out what all of these things are. And again, just to reduce the anxiety and reduce the stress. And then here is my contact information and Paul's contact information. So please write down the emails and the phone numbers. And if there was anything that you didn't feel open about asking in this session, in an open session like this, and you want to speak to either one of us privately, you're more than welcome to email or
Sure.
call.
100%.
So we're both available for you. All right, Paul, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Dana.
We'll see you in 2 weeks when you're talking away at the parents. I'm sure you're going to get lots more questions from them.
All right.
Parents, I hope anyway.
Thank
Thank you everyone for participating today. And don't forget, next week we have 3 universities on. I don't even know who they are off the top of my head. So please go to the link and see which 3 are presenting for next week and register for that webinar. Paul, thank you so much. And everyone on today, thank you too.
Bye now.
Bye.